All righty, next up, if you listen to my show, you hear a lot of interesting characters call in, and some of them are kind of regular characters. And the next presentation is one of those guys, the snake man, Daryl. And Daryl, where you live? DeSoto or something?
Lancaster, yeah.
Lancaster, Texas. And he's, like he said, some of you heard, a herpetologist, and he's been doing performances and also helping people with snake problems for a long time. So I give you Daryl, the snake expert.
Thank you. First question, how many people here do not like snakes? The only good snake's a dead snake. Honey, run, get the hoe. You know, this is one of the few crowds where I can say that, and the entire audience actually remembers that the hoe is a garden tool. I specialize in the truly petrified. I've had little old ladies who were afraid of snakes their whole life, who ended up at the end of my show with a snake around their neck, grinning from ear to ear. And I mean the old lady, not the snake. I always start small, and I start with the first question everybody always asks me, which is, of course, did you bring anything poisonous? And of course, I never answered that question this early in the show. 4 kinds of venomous snakes in Texas. Anybody think that includes cobras? No, no cobras in Texas, except when some bozo lets one loose here. Do you guys remember 4 years ago? There was a news story all over the Metroplex about a cobra that was loose under a building in Oak Lawn, and an idiot, I mean an expert, that they sent under the building to go after it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was me. Sound booth, we got a little ring in that. Take down some of the mids, maybe. Thank you, dear. So, that's better. 4 kinds of venomous snakes in Texas. What are they? Rattlesnakes, coral snakes, copperheads, water moccasins. Excellent. So one of the ways you can tell that somebody's into snakes, they got a lot more pillowcases than they have pillows. Rattlesnakes, copperheads, water moccasins, and I'm kidding. Coral snakes.
And you're going to pick it up with your bare hands?
Yeah, well, fortunately for me, this is not a coral snake. Or I wouldn't hold him quite this way. Does anybody know what he is? King snake's a good guess, but wrong, same family. Milk snake. Why do they call him a milk snake? Any guesses? Who said drinks milk? That's where he got their, no, they don't make milk. From where? The dairy farmer saw them hanging out in the dairy barns with the milk cows, so they thought they were there to drink milk. You can imagine 4 of these attached to a cow like a milking machine. You know, needle-sharp teeth, imagine the cow standing still for that. No, they were there because there were mice and rats in the barn. This is constrictor, just like the big boas and pythons. You'll be meeting shortly. Now, the little rhyme goes, red and yellow, kill a fellow. Notice that nowhere does the red touch the yellow. This is red and black, venom lack. Friend of Jack, yeah, don't have an attack. Harmless little milk snake, but if you're here in the Metroplex, you have got to be east of Rockwall County before you get in range of anything that looks like this. That's not a coral snake. And that's the Louisiana milk snake. You'd be on the far western range. We are way too far north for the Mexican milk snake, and you're way too far east for this. Around here, if it looks like a coral snake, it's a coral snake. Okay, so don't bother with the rhyme. It's basically a little bitty cobra with no hood. So what do you do when you see it? Yeah, well, you call me, but I'm not going to be there very fast. Who said run? Run is good, run is overkill, but run will do. Try not to run into any trees. Any of you kids, you think you should tell a grown-up? Usually the worst thing you can do. You know why? Because venom is not meant for self-defense. Venom is meant for getting lunch. It's meant for getting lunch to stop running away. So they only use it in self-defense when something tries to kill them, like some crazy grown-up with a shovel. 8 out of 10 people who were bitten by venomous snakes were trying to kill the snake at the time. And the other 2 were white males with an alcohol problem. Now, all you have to do if you see a snake, kids, here's what you do. You take 2 steps back and go play somewhere else, okay? Fastest snake in Texas goes 6.5 miles an hour. The human who has seen the snake can do 15. You're faster than he is, he will not chase you down. He will also not grab his tail in his mouth and roll down a hill like a hoop at you. A lot of people in Texas still believe in a hoop snake. There never was a hoop snake. I'll give you another one. Do you know there's no such thing as a poisonous snake? If this snake's venomous, I'm in trouble if he bites me. If he's poisonous, I'm in trouble if I bite him. Get the difference? Snakes are not poisonous. Snakes taste like chicken. And if there had been a food shortage, my house was Y2K ready. So, I brought some local stuff, and I did this specifically. This is not going to be my whole show. It's a little bit abbreviated for the time. But I wanted to show you stuff that's local because this is the most likely to be killed snake for being something he's not. Now, it is entirely possible I'm about to bleed for you because this little guy will be kind of snippy, won't you? This is an incredibly beneficial animal and is the most likely snake to see in most of Texas. You know what he is? He's a Texas rat snake. What's good about rat snakes? They eat rats. One dead rat snake is about 300 live rats. Think about that the next time you got the hoe in your hand, right? There's never a good reason to kill one of these. They're actually quite, well, I wouldn't call them gentle. They will put up a really big show. This guy will hiss at you, he'll strike at you, he'll rattle his tail at you. You gonna try to bite me? Yeah, come get me. Yeah. Oh, aren't you sweet? See what I mean? But this is all bluff. He's got no venom. He can't do anything to me. He is a constrictor, but he can't constrict hard enough to hurt me. So this is all bravado. He's like, I can get you. Look at me. Yeah, I know. I know how far he can reach, too. And that was pretty close. Now, these guys get to be 7 feet long. Okay? So don't let these scare you just because they're huge. They're very, very, very beneficial. There is no reason to kill one of these. But they will hiss at you, they'll strike at you, they'll rattle their tail at you. A lot of snakes rattle their tails. It's a generic snake body language thing that means you're too big to eat, go away. And if he's in the leaves of the twigs, it sounds just like, the real thing. These are incredible climbers. The same muscles that make him able to grab hold of a bird and squeeze the air out of him make him able to grab onto the branches to climb the trees to get to the bird. If you see a snake up in your tree, it is not venomous in Texas, unless somebody dropped it from an airplane, okay? None of our venomous snakes in Texas are good climbers. Now, if you go into South America, there's lots of venomous snakes in the trees, not here, okay? So if a snake is up in your attic, it's harmless, all right? It's that easy. Now, notice also his body shape. You see how he's long and skinny? Oh, stop that. Yeah, you're bad, I know. You know something else he's probably doing to me? Yeah. His other defense, let's see if he's doing it. Oh, yeah. He has a musk gland. One of the ways to avoid being eaten in the wild is to smell really bad. Ask any skunk. But these are incredibly common. The vast majority of the snake calls I go out on where they're sure they have a rattlesnake or a copperhead turn out to be these. All right? Now, that's partly because of where I am in Texas. My counterpart in Austin, generally speaking, when people think it's a rattlesnake down there, it'll be a rattlesnake. But yeah, just because he's a little copper colored doesn't mean he's a copperhead. I'm going to show you a lot more about how to tell the difference the right way. When you ask somebody in Texas, how do I tell if a snake is venomous? Well, you stop that. Get back in there. It's a reptile dysfunction. Oh boy. You guys down front are beginning to smell the musk, aren't you? Isn't that a lovely aroma? I can tell when a Texas rat snake has been disturbed in the woods just by hiking through the woods. Thank you. That was fun. So, let's see here. I've got something for that. Yeah, there we go. Oh, by the way, how many of you have ever seen a garden snake? There's no such thing as a garden snake. And there's definitely no such thing as a gardener snake. What is that, a snake with a rake? Now, just you kids only, I want you to answer this question. Tell me, kids, what's this? It's not a headband. That would be a strange fashion statement. What is it? It's a garter. What does a garter do? Actually, the only place you see these anymore is at weddings on the bride's leg. But the reason for that tradition is ladies used to have to wear these all the time. Before they invented nylon that stays up by itself, ladies used to wear these long stockings and they fell down. So they wore garters to hold them up. Notice how the garter has a stripe down the middle. Back in the day when ladies wore garters all the time, the snake with a stripe down the middle was named after this. It's called a garter snake. So a snake in the garden is not a garden snake. A snake in the grass is not a grass snake. Unless you live in Europe. There's a grass snake all over Europe, but there's no grass snake in the United States. Are you with me so far? So, you want to meet something venomous? Who knows what these are for? These are for snakes that need to be over there. See, my little show is called Snake Encounters. I do shows for schools and museums and libraries and festivals and scout troops and corporate events. But I also do snake removal. When somebody's got a snake problem, I'm the guy who has to climb under the house or through the attic and remove the snake so that mom will move out of the hotel room and back into the house. And when I'm crawling around on my tummy, going after a snake that's faster on his than I am on mine, I like to keep the snake over there. Now, I only use this on the really dangerous ones. Do you guys know what the real Texas coral snake looks like? He looks like this. This is an anatomically correct specimen of the Taiwanese vinyl snake. Thank you, grown-ups, for getting that joke. But at least he's anatomically correct. You remember how in the milk snake, the red, yellow, and black bands are all the same size, right? That's not what the coral snake looks like. Look, it's great big red bands and great big black bands and little bitty yellow bands in between. So I rewrote the rhyme. Instead of red and yellow kill a fellow, my rhyme goes, great big red touching little bitty yellow, only picked up by very stupid fellow. 100% of the way not to be bit by this is don't pick it up, okay? But I want you to learn the right way to tell if a snake is venomous in Texas, because everybody gets this wrong. If you ask somebody, is it venomous, they all tell you to look at the shape of what? The head. And that is wrong. You'll get the wrong answer in both directions. Here's the most venomous snake we have. Little bitty head, all right? But a lot of snakes with wide triangular heads are harmless. Water snakes, most of the snakes in the water in Texas are not water moccasins, they're water snakes. But they have a wide triangular head even though they're harmless. Here's how you tell the difference. This is the only snake in the United States that is long and skinny and is also venomous, okay? The other three, the rattlesnake, the copperhead, the water moccasin, they are not long and skinny, they are short and fat. See this little water moccasin? Look how wide he is in the middle compared to anywhere else. See my point? So, long and skinny and shaped like a hose or a rope is good, unless it happens to have these colors. Short and fat and shaped like a slug is what the venomous snakes look like here. So it's that easy. Long and skinny is good, short and fat is bad. They're like supermodels. So, another local snake that won't be quite so pungent, but will probably also be a little snooty. There he is. Lampropeltis. I put all my labels in Latin. That way kids don't tell me what's coming next. Here we go. Who knows what this is? Who said? I heard somebody say it. This is a bull snake. You know they call him a bull snake? They do not eat bulls. King snakes do not eat kings either. No, he's a bull snake because he's full of bull. That's where the name came from. Not only will he rattle his tail, but he can actually wiggle a little reed in the trachea, so when he hisses, it sounds like a rattlesnake. It sounds like a rattlesnake's tail when he's making the sound with his mouth. Very, very cool. These, you're really going to have to be at least as far west as Weatherford to be coming across many of these. Here in the Metroplex, it'll be mostly Texas rat snakes. The further west you go, the more it's mostly bull snakes, all the way into Arizona, really even into California. So its close relative is called the gopher snake. You can imagine where that name came from. Oop. These are not very good climbers, can you tell? Snakes that don't live in the trees and are not, they're not arboreal like that, are really very clumsy about staying on the hook because they're not used to being off the ground, to speak of. So there he is, the bull snake. Was here for him. Yeah. So, what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say the word boa? Constrictor. All boas are constrictors, but not all boas are boa constrictors. And I have to tell you the most creative answer I ever got to that question. I said, what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say the word boa? One little boy said narrow. Boa narrow. I am not making this up. Sometimes people say feather, but we're not in that neighborhood. All right, here we go. The Amazon tree boa. Isn't he enormous? No, he's not. That's how he hides in the trees, is by looking like a vine. He's very arboreal. And he will also, if he figures out that you know that he's not a vine, I'm over here. he will act, there he is, like a, like a tree viper. Now, he has no fangs. There are no venomous boas, but all snakes have teeth. There's 4 rows on top and 2 rows on bottom, and they're needle sharp, they curve inward, they keep the food from sliding back out. So if he bites my nose, which is clearly his goal in life, if I try to pull him off my nose, I'm digging the teeth in deeper. Now actually, you know what tree boas are best at? Hanging onto the tree. He's not going to fall off the tree. Look at the knot he just tied. Tree boas are afraid of falling. Think about it, you would be too if you lived in a tree and you had no arms and legs. So these guys are actually incredibly good at staying up there. Now the hard part is getting them off the tree. This is your better chance to see me get bit. And of course the crowd always loves it when that happens. I'm going in under here, around that, under this, and in the box. So, how about something bigger? As a matter of fact, you still haven't met anything venomous yet, have you? Do you still want to? Tell me what this sound means. That are a really cool sound effect, huh? This animal is from Venezuela. His name is Jesus. But most people, when they see him, pronounce it the other way. From Venezuela, the Venezuelan Rattlesnake. Isn't he gorgeous? Now remember what the tail rattling means. It means you're too big to eat, go away. I think in my case it also means that he really hates my breath. And he is, sweetheart. Now you notice he's got a fairly small head. That's typical of this species. What's also typical of it is a, whoop, settle down. What's also typical of this species is an extra component to the toxin. In Venezuela, people are known to not only be in trouble and need antivenom for these, but they sometimes lose their vision from the bite. Oh, you're a good boy. Yes, you are. So does everybody see him? Good. Let's hear it for Jesus. Oh, come on. Let's have a round of applause for the... Now, you remember I said long and skinny is good, short and fat is bad, right? Yeah, well, that only applies in the United States. This one is all new meaning to short and fat. He is from Malaysia. This is the Malaysian blood python. Isn't he awesome? He's a blood python. His name is Vladimir. Now, in the wild, blood pythons are very well named. In the wild, if I were this close to him, I would be bleeding a lot. He's got really long teeth, and that little bitty head opens wide enough to swallow something as big as his middle. And no, he does not overeat. He is not obese. This is not a recent meal. This is what they look like. This is a full-grown adult. Fortunately for me, he was hatched in captivity, so he's a big teddy bear. Aren't you? Yes, he's a good boy. Yeah. This, when I do shows at libraries and birthday parties and whatnot, everybody gets to pet Vladimir. In fact, on the way out of here, if you want, I'll be in the lobby. Of course, I'm also in the exhibitor hall. Come by and pick up one. You know, I don't actually give away a business card. I do a coloring book page. Isn't that cool? Actually, I had another one. These are actually going to be part of a full coloring book. I had this one done by the same caricature artist. It's a visual pun. Can you see it? That was done to spec for me. All right, so, seen the rattlesnake, seen that. Oh, hey, you guys like magic? One of the things I normally do to sort of keep it, my idea about every other animal presentation is just that, they're a presentation. I'm really a show. The idea is the more fun they have, the more they learn. And for that matter, all of my scary moments turn out to be funny. So by the end of the show, even the really squeamish are amazed that they had fun. You know, especially the ones at the library that they're only there because their kid dragged them there, you know. So if you like magic, you gotta love the classics. Now, if you're expecting a rabbit, I'm sorry, all of mine are at home in my freezer. Now, if I'm going to do this, what do I need? A magic wand. You're absolutely right. So here's my wand. Watch the hat. Yeah! Yeah, you don't see that every day. Oh, hey, you want to see a cobra? The guy that had that cobra had 2 cobras and 4 gaboon vipers and a desert horned viper and a rhinoceros viper and 5 kinds of rattlesnakes and a python this big around in a 600 square foot condo. Animal control busted the guy. They just brought me along as an advisor. I mean, it was animal control, the police, the landlord, and me. When we got in there, everybody else backed up. I had to take all those snakes in my van to the Dallas Zoo. And all the guy got was a ticket for each one of his 14 prohibited animals. 14 tickets, $2,000 each. So I don't schlep live cobras around, just don't even own one. Now, actually, I do a little thing about, I told you I do birthday parties, right? I was doing one recently, it was in Highland Park. The lady was having to do craft projects. They were painting little clay snakes like milk snakes and king snakes, and they were painting, they were making the paper plate snake that hangs like a spiral. But my favorite was they were taking old neckties and making cobras out of them. Sticking coat hangers in them, little eyes, little tongues. They had a whole table full of them. It was cute. Haven't lived until you've seen a paisley cobra. So here's my tribute to that. I'm going to take this old necktie and put it on this old-fashioned magician's tray thing. I want you to pretend that the tray is a snake basket and I'm playing the flute. Now that is a deadly tie. Watch this. Down, boy. Let's see. Oh, one more thing, and I'll get back to, I've got one more animal to show you. One of the things you need most if you're hunting for snakes is a good flashlight, especially in a dark, crawl space. But the interesting thing about white light is this. You can work with it. Okay. This one reminds me of a story about a little girl, a cute little girl with pigtails, who walked into a pet store, and she looked up at the pet store man, and she said, "Mister, do you have any little rabbits?" And he thought she was cute. So he kneels down and he talks like her. He says, "Well, you want a little white rabbit? You want a little brown bunny? You want that black and white one?" And she said, "Whatever. I really don't think my python gives a crap." You kids are a tough crowd. You guys know who Batman and Robin are? You know what they called Batman and Robin after the Batmobile was hit by a train? Flatman and Ribbon. Why did the anaconda cross the road? To swallow a famous chicken. You know why that original chicken crossed that original road? The real reason? Here in Texas, it was to prove to the possum and the armadillo that it could be done. Anybody know where Myanmar is? Small country? Southeast Asia. What did Myanmar used to be called? Burma, land of shaving cream. Gotta be old to get that joke. From Burma, I give you the Burmese python, but even if you went to the jungles of Burma, you would never find this snake. Do you know why? Because he's right here. No, there's another reason. You would never even see one that looks like him because he never would have grown to be this big. Long ago, something would have eaten him because he would have stuck out like a sore thumb. Because this is a genetic mistake. This is called amelanistic. This is lousy camouflage. That's right. Where are you going to hide in the jungle when you look like this? Now, people always ask me, they say, "Daryl, what are these?" Now, these have been on every snake with the exception of the rattlesnake. Well, the bull snake didn't have them either, neither did the milk snake, but all the boas and pythons have these. They're called cloacal spurs. Maybe let's get a shot without those. Oh, do you want these? Okay. You meant him. So, scientists believe these used to be back legs because they're actually attached to a little vestigial limb system or a hip system in there. They're really sharp like claws. The males have longer ones. This is a male. His name is Neon. And scientists believe they used to be back legs. All we know for certain is that they communicate with them during special seasons. I always tell kids, I usually stretch them out. Stretch this out, we're out of time, but I usually stretch it out with several kids, and the kid on the tail end is usually trying to be away from this end. I'm like, okay, but that end, if it begins to gurgle, please don't point it toward anyone. I was once at a kid's 5-year birthday party when this very snake got me from this shoulder to that foot, and that was the highlight of the show. They got to see the snake man get pooped on. And when you're 5, it just doesn't get any better than that. And the reason it's such a big deal is snakes and birds are closely related. If you look at a bird's feet, you ever looked at a bird's feet? It's not skin, it's scales. Snakes and birds are closely related. So when this snake poops, it's about like a 50-pound bird. Yeah, we're talking ostrich poop. Speaking of, who can tell me what's the longest snake in the world? Anybody know? Anybody think it's the anaconda? That would be a good guess, but wrong. That's the heaviest snake in the world. I used to own one. His name was Andy. We called his cage the Andy Condo. But Andy had a behavioral problem. Andy wanted to bite you. If Andy was not allowed to bite you, Andy got frustrated. And when Andy got frustrated, Andy pooped. And Andy could poop 9 feet. So Andy got a new home. So here we go. And by the way, I want to say one more thing first before I show you this. You want to know why I do this? I'll give it to you in a nutshell. I was 7 years old in my great-grandmother's backyard, Jackson, Mississippi. And I found a beautiful little speckled king snake. And he was shiny black with little yellow stars down his back, and he was very, very gentle. And eventually I had him fully coiled all the way around my finger. And by that time he'd wrapped around my heart. And the next thing that happened was I killed him. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. You put a snake in the back of the car for a few minutes because you go in to visit your crazy aunt who will lose her mind if you bring a snake inside. When I came back, I'd fried him. And I felt so bad that I had to learn everything I could about snakes. I've been making it up to that one snake all my life because I not only didn't want to kill one ever again, I wanted to stop other people from killing them. Right now in this room, is there anybody who would have killed a snake yesterday if you saw it in your garden and you're standing there with the hoe, and tomorrow you won't? Is there anybody in this room like that right now? That's why I do this. That's why I do this. So the longest snake in the world was a reticulated python. Anybody know how long it was? It was 33 feet long. Think telephone pole. But it's been a long time since anybody's even seen a 30-foot snake. And I'm the only person you're ever likely to meet who actually owns a 30-foot snake. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You were wonderful.